Kotaku senior editor Alyssa Mercante continues on the warpath. She is going after Mark Kern, Madam Savvy, as well as gamers at large for winning a huge victory over Sony with getting them to roll back their requirement that you would have to link a PlayStation Network account to your Steam account in order to play Helldivers 2. Before we get into this, I'd like to ask you please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com this morning. And Mercante took to X on May 6th in the wake of Sony reversing their policy to require gamers to connect their Steam accounts to a PlayStation Network account in order to play Helldivers 2. This is obviously what PlayStation said. Helldiver fans, we've heard your feedback on the Helldivers 2 account linking update, the May 6th update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network account linking for new players and current players beginning May 30 will not be moving forward. So that was a huge, huge victory. Gamers won on that front. Well, Mercante was not happy that gamers won. This is what she posted on X. She says, really don't love the recent collection of events in this industry that are emboldening its worst behaved actors. No, Alyssa, you need to look in the mirror. You are the worst, one of the worst behaved actors. People at Sweet Baby Inc. might be a little bit higher than you. Looking at Chris Kindred, Kim Belair, etc. She goes on and says, if companies were actually considering talking about the hate movement bubbling right now, it'd be a lot harder for them to co-opt everything. Hate movement. What is she even talking about? We're talking about Helldivers 2, PlayStation Network, Sony demanding PlayStation Network accounts be linked to Steam accounts. We're talking about Stellar Blade being censored. They promised one thing and they shipped something else in a day one patch. I really have no understanding what she's even talking about here. I think she's literally just creating a narrative. She's bought into the woke ideology. Anyone who is against me is my enemy, and thus they hate me, and thus she has to attack them. And I think that is what she's doing here. She's not paying attention to any of the facts or details, but it's not unheard of. This is what these game journalists do. In her next post, she said, Mark Kern, and then obviously changed the spelling to mock him. It's just really sad. Sad and pathetic. It just shows you she doesn't have any, her arguments don't even make any sense whatsoever. And you're resulting in these kind of petty behavior here. But she says, Mark Kern really going to tell you him sending harassment towards community managers is why Helldivers is fixed. And you should give him more money so he can goon to women who he could have technically fathered. But what do I know? So now she's saying that Mark Kern is harassing community managers when that is not what he's doing. He is criticizing them for their bad behavior, which is well documented, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But let's continue with what Mercante had to say here. In her next 3 posts, she says, I spoke about this on Super Deluxe Gamescast. I don't think that's come out yet. I did look for it. No one watches that YouTube channel. I was looking at one. They had one on Ryan Easby. It had 7 views. It was posted like a couple days ago. No one watches that YouTube channel. But it's as simple as releasing a joint letter signed by the bigwigs that denounces harassment of community managers and devs and confirms diversity is a natural component of modern gaming and here to stay. Well, they're probably not going to do that because a lot of that stuff is being challenged in the court system right now, and they're losing. We have this stuff at Harvard where they were basically they had quotas for students applying, and it was negatively affecting Asians. That's no longer allowed, according to the Supreme Court. We just saw a case in Texas, I think. I don't know if it was Texas. It's about some police officer, has some DEI ramifications to that as well. And I think we just saw a case in New York as well, where they enacted a anti-white toxicity policy, and 3 teachers who were fired or let go with that policy being enacted sued the city or the state. Don't remember which one. And it actually got through the dismissal process, and it was going to go to court. And the state or the city decided to settle instead of going to court. So the whole diversity, DEI, hiring agenda stuff is being significantly challenged. in the legal system, and it is losing big time because it is illegal and it is wrong because it's literally hiring people based on race, based on sex. That is wrong. And looks like now, I mean, even with we got some Disney stuff here where they're doing it based on religion. So we got that over on thatparkplace.com. That scoop. Their RISE program. So all this stuff is losing. There's an EEOC complaint filed against the Walt Disney Company as well by America First Legal. So that's probably why you won't see video game companies doing that, because they're losing. This evil stuff is losing, as it should. And then there is no harassment of community managers or developers. It's interesting because she's the one who was accused by FarmFolk CEO of intentionally misrepresenting his comments. But she has the gall to accuse others of what she is doing. Anyways, she goes on and says, don't love to see the Arrowhead CEO replying to the same woman. So this is her shot at Madam Savvy. Same woman who thinks the United Nations is making your games woke. It objectively is. All of this stuff is connected to DEI, ESG policies. You can see a lot of this stuff being pushed by the United Nations. You see it being pushed by Larry Fink at BlackRock. It is connected. It's not fake. She's like, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. Well, it's not. the evidence is there and shows that this is what is happening. When the people are telling you that this is what is happening, it's really not a conspiracy theory, is it? And how many quote unquote conspiracy theories have been proven to be accurate and true just a couple years later? We're living in a time where people who are being accused of spouting conspiracy theories are literally proven true in less than like 2 years, 3 years. I mean, you really can't make this stuff up. If more people were full-throated talking about these chuds, maybe that would not happen. So again, there with the pejorative. Right, she's the one who's saying that she's the one making accusations of people being harassing, and she's the one like calling names and being like extremely petty and disgusting about this, right? And then she says, if you loudly defended your community managers, Asylum Barbie, again taking a shot at Madam Savvy, would quote know where you stand and would probably not be politely pinging you. So, as expected, this is completely devoid of a lot of information or facts on what was going on with the community managers, the team, and the moderation team that they employ, because she's trying to spin a narrative, and she does, and the facts of the matter don't actually confirm that narrative. They show the opposite. So if we look here, we have the Helldivers 2 community management team employing this Discord moderator. His name's Purple Legion. He accused Mark Kern of sexually assaulting many people he worked with, lost his position as CEO, now is a far-right influencer, had people attack more than one of our community managers and their families. So pretty much everything that this Helldivers 2 moderator posted in Discord is a complete and utter fabrication, according to Mark Kern. Another post, it looked like he was trying to remove people who support Mark Kern. He says, anyone here who is a Grummz fan, please out yourself so I can help you out the door. Remember, this is a moderator. Purple Legion then doubled down on his slander or libel, writing this. Slander implies it was a lie. Not only did the community management team employ this individual as a moderator, but they also were banning the term Grummz from their Discord. We saw this every echoing inch tried to post this post. Is that one mod still freaking out about Grummz because he can't handle L's? And he got a response saying that post was unable to go through. This content is blocked by this server from server moderators. This message was presented by a auto mod rule created by Probot, or this message was prevented. So clearly they were blocking the term Grummz. Not only did we see all of this, and they banned the term Grummz, but the community management team has also repeatedly derided gamers. Back in March, community manager Catherine Baskin declared Helldivers 2 was pretty woke and claimed the game was banning individuals she and the developer Arrowhead Game Studios deemed bigots, transphobes, homophobes, and racists. She initially replied to a Steam curator list that recommended Helldivers 2 and claimed the game was not woke. She initially just wrote LMAO. However, in response later in the thread, she wrote this, plus Helldivers is pretty woke, dog. Game was made by a lot of LGBTQ and brown people and black people and women, and it's a big satire of jingoism. It amuses me they don't know that Super Earth is bad. It also explains a lot about the world at present. You see her post right there. And then she wrote this. She says, no, we only ban the bigots, transphobes, homophobes, racists, etc. are not welcome in our community. We had to restrict the topics in the Helldivers 2 general chats for a while because it was triggering massive waves of hate speech, which our staff was struggling with emotionally. And then we have Spitz. So immediately after Sony announced that they were going to be requiring PlayStation Network account linking, Spitz was out there trying to do damage control, and he was doing it by belittling gamers. He was actually making it even worse. He said, it's not like this is the first or even the 14th mainstream game to require a third-party account that takes a couple minutes to create. But if it's a deal breaker to have to take 120 seconds out of your day to enter an email and password and then forget about it, change your Steam review and make your displeasure known on a platform where it matters. So clearly mocking and belittling gamers who did not like this new policy. Instead of maybe acting generously or at least charitably and understanding why they were upset and not happy with this new policy. No, he chose to belittle them. That was his reaction. In another post, he specifically replied to this user Eternal Sweeb, who said, this will kill Helldivers 2 on Steam, backpedal or lose your player base. And Spitz replied, I thought you were refunding and leaving. Again, deriding a player, a paying customer. Just completely unprofessional. So following all of this, Kern called for the community management team to be fired. He wrote, jokes aside, this is a dangerous precedent. If you become too effective, a critic of Sony and Arrowhead Game Studios and stand up for gamers, they will ban your name from the Helldivers Discord server and personally attack you. This is blatant abuse of community manager power. Worst community management team in history. Fire them. He has since praised community manager Twinbeard. He says, props to Twinbeard, the only good community manager for Helldivers, who helped keep everyone calm and informed during the PR crisis and never made it about himself. He should be lead. So clearly, none of this adds up to a harassment campaign or a hate campaign or anything that Alyssa Mercante is trying to push via her narrative. The evidence does not support her position. So let's move on to her shot at Madame Savvy. So she asked this question to Johan Pilstedt, who is the CEO of Arrowhead Game Studios, the developer of Helldivers 2. And he posted this on May 5th. It deeply saddens me that Helldivers is also being review bombed due to the recent Helldivers 2 controversy. I don't think that that is a review bomb. That is a term the media likes to use when people are expressing their dislike of something. I think people were actively sharing that they did not like the new policy, and they were letting that known by giving negative reviews. I think that is feedback that they needed to hear, because they clearly weren't being informed by their community management team. It was not, they were not listening to the feedback that they were receiving in other locations. So people were making sure that their feedback would be heard, and they decided to leave negative reviews. I think that is a fine way of letting people know that you don't like what's going on, what they're doing. And so in response to that, Madame Savvy says, there's something I don't understand and would appreciate clarification on if possible. You said you knew about the PlayStation Network requirement 6 months before launch. Was that not a discussion at the time of signing the contract? Why did it change? Are they able to make changes like that on the fly with anyone? Would you have said no if possible? I'm assuming your contracts with them were signed years prior to launch. And Pilestedt responded this. Thank you for the civil questions. We signed Helldivers 2 8 years ago. It doesn't specify details such as account linking. There are always requirements from publishers during development. This was one of them. We did discuss it, and it was deemed as important for PlayStation to have it for an online title, and it was implemented a couple of months before release. When servers exploded on launch, quick decisions had to be made, such as turning off linking and Galactic War stats to be able to take the load off servers. We couldn't enable it again because of the risk to explode the servers again, and remember the negative feedback around that. And now, finally, the requirement to re-enable came from PlayStation to help with moderation, and we had to comply even though there were concerns there would be backlash. There was backlash, and now we're talking about it again. So nothing really wrong here either. And we see Mercante attacking Madame Savvy for asking just questions and getting clarification and understanding of what is actually happening from the CEO of the company. And he provided, I think, a pretty solid response as to the time frame and an explanation for why this was happening. So I appreciate Johan Pilestad for doing that, because I think there was a lot of confusion as to what was going on. I mean, they literally just posted a new policy saying, this is what we were supposed to do from the very beginning, but we didn't actually do it. Now we are. Deal with it. And that was kind of what Sony posted. And people didn't like that. And then they were confused and they wanted an explanation. And I think he did a pretty good explanation explaining what was going on here. And then Savvy reacted to Mercante's attack on her, or her shot against her. She said this: for the record, she has an issue with the CEO saying thank you to me for the civil questions. If you'd recall, her own questions towards a different CEO were met with said CEO saying she misrepresented him this weekend. Yep, this is the farm folks thing I was talking about earlier. I'm not sure what full-throated means, and I honestly don't know what chuds are, but if you're a writer with such a limited vocabulary where all you can do is hurl insults, I'm really not concerned about your opinion. Are you calling for harassment for me? For me, all because I ask questions? Why would full-throated talking about these chuds stop someone from speaking to me? Doesn't sound very inclusive. So again, this does not add up to Mercante's attacks against Madame Savvy. Her narrative falls apart when actually shown the evidence and what happens. But this tactic is not surprising. We saw this with the Verge writer, Ash Parrish, when after she covered Sweet Baby Inc. and refused to actually show that Sweet Baby Inc. employees, Chris Kindred and Maya Kramer, were the ones to launch a harassment campaign against Cabrutus Rambo for creating a Steam curator list that detects all games that Sweet Baby Inc. was involved in. They went so far as to try and get his entire Steam account shut down. She didn't include any of that because she wanted to paint a picture where Sweet Baby Inc. were the victims, not the aggressors, not the ones acting immorally. She explained this in DMs that were publicly shared by X user Your Read This WR1. Parrish informed him, I'll share the conversation I had with my editors about this because in preparation for my piece, I struggled with this particular bit. And the conversation I had really helped me understand Cabrutus and his ilk have a grievance against Sweet Baby Inc. that is rooted in racism and misogyny and has no basis in the reality of how video game development works. That's it, period. So she's saying that she was informed by her editors that because they want to accuse Cabrutus of racism and misogyny, that we must protect Sweet Baby Inc. We must not tell the truth. We must not show the evidence of what happened. And he is thus the enemy, and we must destroy him. That is exactly what she's saying here. She's literally admitting that she lied to paint a narrative. And that's exactly what Alyssa Mercante just did too. These people are liars. They double down on their lies because they're trying to push an evil, evil agenda that when you actually see the truth of it, it exposes their lies. It shows them for the frauds and the liars that they are. Now, Parrish goes on and says this, and when you get into the nitty gritty, right? The actual details, the facts, that's the nitty gritty of who did what, when, not obviously the who's and what's that are necessary to explain the story. That central premise gets lost. So me painting Cabrutus as a racist and misogynist and people that follow him as racist and misogynist gets lost when we actually show that it was Chris Kindred and Sweet Baby Inc. and Maya Kramer attacking him. Of course, the facts get in the way of your narrative. You absolute liar. And me personally, I have to remember what my piece is ultimately about. Painting Cabrutus and what did she say? His ilk as racist and misogynist. That's what these people are, man. These people are absolute liars. They're sick. They're disgusting. Stuff has to be rejected. She goes on. You can read the rest of it here. But this is exactly what Alyssa Mercante's doing right here. She literally admits all of this stuff, all of this evidence that we just went over, to paint a narrative around Mark Kern, Helldivers 2 players, and Madam Savvy. She says it's a hate movement and they're harassing. This is absolutely not true. These are lies, and we have the evidence and receipts that show that. But she's going to keep doing this, but we will continue to call out her lies, continue to expose her. Let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, but to always speak the truth.